Hello, welcome back to my channel. If you've never been here before, I'm Jamie. I read a ton of books, and this is my week 3, November 2024 reading wrap-up, which is a few days late, but that's okay because with Thanksgiving coming up in a few days, the week 4 update wouldn't be, making sense anyway until the 30th or the 1st. So being offset by a few days isn't such a terrible thing in November. So anyway, that's my excuse. Actually, it's more like I tried to record this yesterday, and as soon as it was almost done, the cats jumped on the bed and jostled my finger as I was doing stuff on the keyboard, and I ended up, messed it up. Anyway, blame the cats. So since my last update, at this point, I finished 11 books. Of those, 3 of them are in print. One of them is not an ARC, but was an audiobook that was something referenced in ARCs. And the rest are ARCs. So, did pretty good so far. Finishing ARCs this week. So my favorite books for week 3 were The Rest is Memory by Lily Tuck, which was an ARC. It comes out in December 10th. And Midnight in Blue by Ian Rankin. Not sure when this one comes out. I think it might come out next year, but it does not have a publishing date yet in Goodreads. So I'm pretty sure that one was from 2025. The Woman Behind the Door by Roddy Doyle was the first ARC I finished during this segment. It was good. It was a 5-star for me. Not as high a 5-star as The Rest is Memory or Midnight in Blue, but still good. This Way for the Gas, Ladies and Gentlemen, was a 5-star. Not a fun 5-star, but a good read 5-star. And The Other Bennet Sister, which is, I know, not nonfiction and not an ARC, but was a break after reading several Auschwitz books kind of in a row. That one was kind of 4.75 stars, so still pretty good. I finished 2 Crochet books. Actually, only one of them is on Goodreads yet, so I need to update that. So 12 books during this segment. Those ones I didn't read every line of every single set of instructions for the patterns. They are stitch pattern library sort of books. So instead of being, something that shows you how to make a particular garment or a particular doily or whatever, they are diagrams and instructions for specific stitch patterns, specific textures in crochet. One of them was the starter stitches and the other was next level stitches, so like intermediate level. Both of those were 5-star books for me, and I might acquire them in print if I come across them at a price I can afford when I'm shopping books after I'm done with my Read What You Own challenge. We'll see. Because they were really useful. They have diagrams. I always like crocheting from diagrams, so I really appreciated that. My lowest rated book was Eclipse by Keiichiro Hirano. This one's also novella length, 152 pages on Goodreads. Although I think the one that I read is a new edition, and may have different page count. Because this is one that Goodreads actually had a book listed for it in 1998. So this is one that, on NetGalley sometimes you get like classics that have been released in a new edition, maybe a new translation. I think this one has a new translator. And it is a Japanese modern classic. I didn't care for it all that much. It was okay. But yeah, it just wasn't something that was all that memorable a story. It was not inspiring or beautiful enough for me to be like, wow, that was nice, even though it didn't have much of a plot. I think it had a plot. I just didn't resonate with it. Anyway. And Out in the Cold by Steve Urszenyi. It was kind of a 3.75. Good plot. It's a spy thriller set in kind of an alternate near future. So post-Ukraine war, which we're not yet, that war is still ongoing. So this is in the future, but not that far in the future. And Russia is no longer Putin's Russia, but it kind of acts the same. And I found it a little awkward because none of the statesmen referenced were people that are in power now. They're all fictional, which is nice, and don't want to get in trouble for libel, certainly. And maybe that's a concern. But I seriously doubt that all the currently relevant statesmen are going to be no longer in charge in countries that don't have a swift turnaround like the U.S. So anyway, that was awkward. What I really didn't like about that one was the main character, Alex. She's a badass. She's a sniper, and kind of has all the skills to be a spy. She's worked for the CIA and the FBI, and they both kind of like her for her skills, but she has no self-discipline whatsoever. To the point where if you told me that she was a 15-year-old that just was kind of a prodigy, I'd buy it, because she acts like she's about 15. So I had issues with that. And the writing itself wasn't all that strong. Pacing was off. Dialogue was off. So it is only book 2. The author is not one that's written a ton of books yet. And it read about as good as some of Clive Cussler's early stuff. So I'm hoping this author keeps going and kind of matures his style a little bit. And then I'll come back and read it. And, once you've read the good ones, you can go back and read the early ones. And because you know the characters, you kind of like it more because you're familiar with it from something you liked. But this is going to be one of those early books in the series, if it continues. And I would imagine it will. It's not that bad, but not something where I'd want to collect them all. So, anyway. And besides those, the other book that I finished, the books that I finished were Capital, Volumes 1 and 2, which are part of my 24 tomes for 24 project. If you've been with me a little while, you might remember that I was going to read 12 of the 24 tomes that I set aside as, these were big fat books that I carried all the way up the alley when I moved. And then after I got them here, I was like, well, I hope that they're actually worth carrying, because they're kind of big books. And if they're not, they could go away, so that if and when I end up moving again, I don't have to move them, because they, on their own, would be like 2 bags worth of books, easy, maybe more, depending on the bag size. But yeah, so I sort of got distracted with competitive readathons. and kind of sort of didn't read most of the books that were on those kinds of project lists for most of the year. So I finished the best science fiction short stories collection, or I don't remember what the title was anymore. But I finished that one during the Amazing Readathon for points. It wasn't nearly as long as I wanted it to be, so I was hoping it would be fat enough to use for serious points, but it still got pretty decent, and I used it on something where I could double the page count at least. But, yeah, I finished that one. I finished the first half of The Sources of Chinese Tradition, but I still haven't finished the second volume of that 2-volume set. I did finish, though, volumes 1 and 2 of Capital. I still have volume 3, and I will finish that in this coming week. So then that will be done. And then I still have lots more to read in December. I may or may not actually finish all of them that had their numbers chosen this year. But if I want to unhaul them, I can at the end of the year, because I've had them in consideration at least to read. I probably still won't get rid of them unless I am sure that I don't want to keep them. I don't DNF very willingly. But, yeah. And I didn't say much about the other Bennet sister, by Janice Hadlow. This one actually is kind of a fun retelling of Pride and Prejudice from Mary's perspective. Mary is that bookish, kind of mousy sister that doesn't get a lot of focus in Pride and Prejudice. She's just kind of there. And in this one, we get the whole narrative of, starting out with the girls needing to find spouses, and, we get into a lot more about what the entail means, and the dire straits that these girls face if they can't find spouses. Because the estate that they live on is entailed, so since they don't have a brother, their home goes to their cousin as the nearest male relative when their dad dies. And whoever he marries can move in there, and they can take over the house. And there isn't anything about, a lifetime, lease or anything. They're out in the cold. So that is why there's that urgency of finding spouses for these girls. And there's a lot more emphasis on women's circumstances during this era and what choices they had and what those choices would mean. I liked that. I hated the ending. I hate maybe a strong word. We get to the ending. Mary is finally actually talked to the fellow that she likes, and he's actually talked to her. And, instead of they kiss and yay, they're engaged and end the story, they go on and on and on. It feels like at the end of a murder mystery where the detective gets everybody into the room and talks through the entire murder and all the red herrings and this didn't actually mean anything and here's what happened. And so they do that. But it doesn't feel like it fits with everything that's gone up to that point. At this point, this is where they kiss. And they promise that it'll be better from now on. And then that's the end of the book. Or maybe, because Mrs. Bennet has been such a nasty lady throughout this book, maybe she gets to realize how awful she's been at the end of the book. That would have been okay. That would actually have been a fitting ending. But the way it wrapped up got so tedious that it actually dropped it by a 1/4 star for me. Otherwise, it was a 5-star book. I enjoyed it. But yeah, beware the ending. It's tedious. Otherwise, I do recommend it. It was fun. And so that means my total number of print books for November that I've finished that count towards Read What You Own is now 6. Only 6, though. Out of all the books I've read, those are the only ones I have in print. But I did go through some of my nonfiction and looked up which ones I can find in audio format from my library. So I can do audiobooks more for the rest of the month, this coming week. And maybe knock out some more of the books I own in audio during those times when I want to be doing chores and can't be doing a physical book at the same time. So, anyway, that's been my week. I will be doing a wrap-up at the end of the week, or, probably Sunday or Monday, to wrap up November, and I'll do a separate TBR video for December, and hopefully we'll end the year on a high note and actually finish a significant portion of my TBR in December. I'm working on this whole self-discipline thing myself. Grousing about characters with no self-discipline when I don't present much. Oh, that's awkward. So, I'm going to try to actually finish the books on my TBR in December, at least within reason. Those tomes being maybe the exception, just because there's a lot of pages in those. And there's a reason that I haven't read them yet. So, anyway, let me know if you've read any of the books that I've mentioned, or any of the other books by the same author, or whatever. And let me know how your November is going. And I will see you guys on sprints somewhere or in the next video. Don't forget that if you like sprints and you haven't been checking in them, NetGalley November goes for the rest of the month, and it still is 24/7 every day for the rest of November. So there is no hour this month where there is not a live reading sprint going on YouTube for NetGalley November. And there's actually other sprints also going on in addition to those. So if some of them are a little chatty for you and you want to just sit down and read, just look for some of the other folks that sprint a lot, because they're still also sprinting in addition to NetGalley November. So it is definitely a month for sprinting. Anyway, I will catch you guys in the next video or in sprints. And in the meantime, happy reading, everybody. Bye!